Saturday I got in bed about 12:15, so I missed. But my kids make sure I was awake on time now.
Always do, right? Good to go, everybody? All right, fire away.
After a game like Saturday, and maybe this is kind of in general since you've been down to 7 or 8 players, how much of these next 2 days are focusing on yourself more than TCU?
I mean, it's almost always that way, regardless of the year or the situation within the season. But um, it's really important that we understand that there's a certain way you have to play mentally. You have to approach the game the right way. I thought we did early, and then they did what a really good team does. They made a run, and they made it really hard for us to get out in transition, and we didn't respond well at all. We started settling, and I shouldn't say it was on us because they made us take some really tough shots, which led to some easy baskets, and the ball got rolling downhill on us, and we couldn't stop it. So today, it's just the same. We try to figure out from a film standpoint where those moments that we could be better, and then move on to the next one.
How do you think the guys have been adjusting to the defensive switches between man and zone?
Saturday was any indication not very good. Now we played 3 games before that doing that, and we were pretty good. So it's still a process. It's the first time that I feel like we didn't respond though the right way when another team made a run, and it was mostly on the defensive end because they got just ridiculously uncontested shots, and to their credit, they made them all.
What
Mental
goes?
fatigue?
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, we were off a whole week, so I could see maybe some of the grinding. See, that's part of what happens in February. Quite honestly, for everybody. And what you see, as I said it before, you start to see a separation. Some teams get better and start to continue to trend upward, and some teams, either because they're not getting better or because they're disinterested in continuing that process, start to tail off, and that's something we got to make sure doesn't happen to us.
What goes into deciding when to switch into different defenses? Is it a feel and flow of the game and foul situations, or do you go in with some sort of idea of how?
Yeah, try to have an idea. The game usually kind of dictates how you make adjustments throughout. Certainly, you're picking up early foul makes you more conscious of that. Try to keep them on the court a little bit more. Anytime we have to sub one of our starters, to be honest, you try to look to maybe preserve some energy, and so it's usually pretty early, 4th or 5th possession of the game. We try to start out being pretty aggressive, but we're more mindful of foul trouble, and certainly the time to score. If we get a lead, it's probably helpful to maybe try to play a little bit more too, to try to preserve the lead a little bit longer.
When we spoke to Yor a few minutes ago, he said at the beginning of the season probably had trouble playing 20 minutes in a game without getting tired. How much have you seen him develop just in terms of his ability to play with effort for 30 minutes in a game?
Yeah, it's a what you've seen from yours, what you see typically from freshmen, particularly bigs. They come along late, they figure things out, things happen a little slower for them. I can still remember back to my freshman year. It wasn't until much later in the year that I even was able to help my team have success on the court consistently. So I know that process takes time. What happens is we've seen several guys been able to come in as freshmen and have remarkable seasons, and so you almost forget that's those outliers. But what he's having is a very typical freshman year in terms of steady progress. I think he's gotten better, each week. Hasn't always produced at a high level, but I can see signs of him becoming a really good player.
How beneficial do you think all this playing time will be for Ice and Yor in the years going forward?
It'd be huge. It's one of the kind of silver linings is, and that, I watched the game and it looked like my team was looking for help. Trying to find somebody to save them from that moment when K-State was making that run, and there's nobody to help us. We got to figure this thing out on our own, and it's good for them because they'll have this experience moving forward for the rest of their careers.
What's it like in practice to have them playing against the practice squad and really be able to focus on what they're doing all on one team now?
I mean, I think there's certainly some benefit to that. That's the first time I've ever experienced anything like it. I've always had guys, this time of year, you worry about guys who aren't necessarily in a rotation not being very happy, and we certainly don't have that issue because we don't have guys who aren't either on the team and they're playing or they ain't or they're not. And so it's been helpful for our guys in preparation being able to focus on just what we do and trying to be as good as we can at it.
Is there any update on Duncan's health?
You know, he's better. I mean, I think it's a back strain. You know, it's not anything that's torn or severely hurt, but you know, backs take a little longer to heal, I guess. I never really had any back issues myself, but I just totally rely on our doctors and trainers. When they tell me he's ready to go, we put him in there, and if he can go, we leave him longer. But you could see it. He couldn't move very well on Saturday. So you know, you just go with the guys who are ready and capable of doing the job. And when he's better, he'll get another opportunity.
You ever been in a situation where you only have 6 scholarship guys available to you?
No, not as an assistant, not as a player, never. So this goes in the book too.
How big does Luke Major become? Do you increase his role at all?
Good, yeah, that's a great point. We've talked to Luke about, you know, the reason we approach our walk-ons the way we do is because, hey, you never know what the situation can call for. So, you know, we coach him in practice just like we coach all those other guys, and yeah, we need to be able to play him a few minutes. And you know, if those few minutes can be productive for us, we need to maybe give him more opportunities. But he's got to do the job in practice to prepare himself for that.
How did? Oh, go
Did
ahead.
Gabe kind of stand out among those practice squad players? Is that why he got the nod?
Well, again, it's still kind of procedural. He was already in athletics. We already got a lot of stuff on him. It's easier to get him through. Some of those other guys were just still waiting on clearance from compliance. Gabe's was pretty easy. We just called over the football office and said, hey, you wasn't practicing an illegal player, were you? And there we go.
How have you seen the team kind of mesh with that practice squad? Because I imagine it could be a little jarring, maybe a whole new group of guys to come in midway through the year.
Yeah, I'll be honest. The very first day they were out here, I can't remember what day it was. They kicked our guys' tails for a few minutes. Because our guys don't know anything about them, and they also have no pressure on them to actually like perform anything well. They just get to play hard, and then they did that, and our guys kind of were shocked that they and I told them, I want you guys to go at them, man. This needs to be a productive situation if we're going to use it. So they've been very good. I've been very pleased with what they brought to the table, and I look forward to all of them continue to help us.
How many of them are there right now?
That's a good question. I don't want to misspeak. I think there's 6, but I'm not sure. I think there's 6, and I'm always kind of Tanner and Gabe. They've kind of passed that, so I really just count those guys because they're dressing now. But there are 3 or 4 of the guys that are still practicing where it's consistent.
How has Tanner adjusted to his new role?
You probably have to ask him. I couldn't say. He's been fine from my standpoint in terms of helping us in practice. Obviously, he knows more than any of the other guys do because he's been around us for 2 years. He knows terminology. He understands our offensive system. So he's been very helpful to us in that regard.
Do you feel like he's getting treated any differently than any of the other practice squad guys or the other guys on the roster?
I mean, I can't sense that. I don't get that feel at all. I haven't heard any grumblings or anything. And you know, again, he's a great kid. He loves the opportunity to help us any way he can. And now it's just a little bit of a different role.
Is it going to be weird for you guys to head out on the road after being able to spend so much time here?
Nah, we probably need to change the scenery. We probably need to get away and just kind of, you know, on the road you get a different feel from your team. You don't have a choice but to be a little bit more connected. Our crowds have been really good for us the last 3 games, and not having them won't be fun, but you know, you always kind of galvanize your group internally a little bit better on the road.
You guys go from a team that's at the top of the Big 12 to TCU, a team who's had some struggles. What have you seen at TCU, and is it kind of, you know, catch your breath a little bit, not playing with the top dogs in the league?
No. I don't even know what that means. This league is full of top dogs.
I know.
TCU's just happened. They played at Tech and at Baylor last week. I mean, they could. Everybody looks at their schedule one game at a time in this league, and it's for that reason. I mean, you look too far ahead, and you'll give yourself migraines worried about where you're going to find a win at. But they're really good. They got a lot of talent and experience. A team that had success last year. A lot of those guys are back. Just haven't been able to find consistency. I know they're 5-0 at home in the league, so I do know that.
Fort Worth is pretty close to where Ice and Cam are from. Do you know if they'll have family members going to the game?
Oh yeah, we always, you know, since I've been here, we've always had several guys, multiple guys from that area, and that game's always been pretty well attended by their family members and friends. And I don't know how many there are, but I'm sure there'll be several.
Are you going to be able to find some time to recruit amid that trip?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I wouldn't pass on an opportunity to recruit in Dallas at all. So I'll be. We'll practice here. We'll go down, find a game to watch, and maybe go by a couple practices Wednesday morning.